I tried to be smart with the numbers, look at the costs, look at the production, what was realistic. It basically was what it would cost to build my drum room. So it's like, if I'm going to spend money to do that, this makes more sense.
Finding a great career has always been a challenge. But today, with the massive changes underway in just about every sector of the economy, in just about every country in the world, finding a great new career is even more challenging. And if you're a student, recent graduate, or someone else early in their career, it's even harder for you because you just don't have the experience that those who might be 10, 20, 30 years older than you have. The answer? The podcast, From Dorms to Desks, a podcast by College Recruiter job search site, where every week we take a deep dive into a topic specifically of interest to candidates who are early in their careers and looking for a great part-time, seasonal, internship, or other entry-level job.
And get advice from some good people. I did talk to one guy who he was like, this is amazing. This idea is unbelievable. You know what? We could start looking at distilleries. We could start doing this. We'll go get it in Asia. We'll get it here. I'm like, wait a second, dude. I'm only talking about, you're looking at a production run of like 50,000 bottles. I'm going to do 5,000 bottles. I go, I think we're at a different point. When I get there, maybe we'll talk. And I didn't want to get investors in, by the way. I wanted to do it all by myself because eventually you might need to bring in investment capital. But I didn't want to go there because I just knew that it can complicate things.
Welcome to Backstage Pass with the HR Rockstar, the show that pulls back the curtain and cranks up the volume on the most pressing HR topics, from talent strategies and workplace culture to career pivots and leadership. Because in today's world, HR isn't just behind the scenes, it's center stage. I'm your host, Jay Arnold, and in the world of HR and talent, there are times you recognize top performers within the workplace, sometimes referred to as rock stars. This podcast combines my love of HR as my career with my experience of 10 plus years performing shows around Michigan and the Midwest in my rock band, chasing the dream of being an actual rock star. Join me as I sit down with rock stars in their fields to have fun, insightful conversations that keep the human in human resources. Together we'll disrupt, innovate, and amplify the future of work. So grab your pass, turn it up, and let's make some noise. Joining me today is Greg Sobol, drummer, musician, and now entrepreneur and founder of Tekiah Tequila. Welcome to the show, Greg. We've known each other for a number of years from the Detroit music scene. We've crossed paths a number of times, even ran into each other during college and didn't realize we were both going there. So we have so many mutual friends in different areas of life. So it's great to finally connect and do this episode together. For those unfamiliar with your work, can you give a quick overview of your career and honestly your new venture that you jumped into recently?
Of course. Hey, Jay, thanks for having me. It's great to be on your podcast. It's awesome to see what you're putting together. So I'm excited to be here and chat. And yeah, we've known each other for a while, and I know a lot of mutual friends. The Detroit music scene is a really small circle, and I know we were kind of traveling in that circle for a while, and musicians get to know each other really well. But on top of that, I know when you were at OCC in Walls College, my father was a big presence there and the chair of the psych department. I know that when he talked about it, he was that conduit that we knew each other even better since then. So yeah, I grew up here in Metro Detroit. I guess I had the typical upbringing, got really into music, and that led me on a path of like studying music at university, doing all of the, I guess, traditional ways and routes of getting there through that. And then realizing I wanted to branch out and play music on the road, tour with some bands, get to a point where I said, okay, got to be out of Michigan. So I'm going to go to Florida, Texas. I'm going to go to LA. And from LA, came back to Texas and Nashville. And so it was a great journey. And then also realizing throughout that maybe I want to come back. So I ended up coming back to Michigan and went with what I had studied, built upon my music background, studied finance, and did that to get through with accounting, finance, and then got into that kind of traditional, again, 9-to-5 gig and playing on the weekends. with some great bands and the bands that do a lot of corporate type of performing. So that was great. So I was doing my 9 to 5, and on the weekends I was doing private gigs, and it was a really awesome side hustle. It wasn't called side hustle then, it was just gigging, and I loved playing drums. I loved playing music. So it was always fun. Eventually I'm getting married. I'm engaged. I kind of cut that out. So I stopped playing. I wanted to spend more time with my fiance, wife, and now family. And then that moved into something I never expected. When we got married, my wife, Carrie Long, is an amazing interior designer, award-winning. She's done unbelievable homes and custom work, everything you can imagine, interior architecture. It's unbelievable. At that point, when we were about ready to have our first baby, her finance controller decided he was going to leave. And she came to me and said, I guess I got to figure this out, and I've got to do it fast. And I said, well, I can come in there and start working on the books, making sure things are reconciled, making sure things are kept up, and we'll find somebody. And then it was, well, maybe that somebody is you. Maybe we'll just do this together, because we didn't plan that. And maybe we'll build this together more. And that's what happened. So I jumped into a whole new industry of interior design and, running a business, but finance, and then understanding how the interior design space works, which I had no clue, and learned a lot. And so we've been doing that for the last 7 years, basically the entirety of our marriage. And there's been so many things that have happened. It's been warp speed, and I love it. And she is very entrepreneurial. And when you think about your partner, it was obvious that who you marry can really dictate your trajectory and what happens in your life. And because she is so just adventurous, and she really wants to build things, and she wants to make it happen, to have that kind of person there, when I came up with this concept, she's always been, yeah, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's figure it out. And that's really been a huge, we're always trying to push each other to grow and do more, and do that for our future, for the family and the boys. So this idea came up with this tequila, and it was something that, from the business standpoint, what it is, your cost of goods, the production, a number of things you could figure out. But it was also developing something and being creative. And she was very encouraging, and because of that entrepreneurial spirit. So she was a great person to have in your corner. That led me to wanting to figure this out for a couple of reasons. One is that it is a product that I feel so strongly about, and it is a product-based business. So I thought this potential can scale beyond what you can if you're running your own operation and it's a service-based business and you only have those hours in the day, your calendar, what you can book out and how much you can physically do. This is beyond that. I can get this to go a lot of markets and, even internationally. So I said, I got to do it. But that's kind of like the quick course of what has happened.
I think for sure having the right partner in your corner in all areas of your life as a spouse or life partner, that could, like you said, shape your trajectory so well. And I definitely can relate to that. You spent so much time behind the drums back in the day, even recently. How did that chapter of your life shape your approach to business and leadership now in preparing and pivoting to being the controller at your wife's interior design firm and what you're doing now with the tequila brand?
I mean, in a band, you always have like certain roles. So like when we were out touring, I would oversee kind of like logistics and the calendar and doing things on the website or inventory of merch and whatever. It's just all basic stuff. In this situation, it was a little bit different because it relates, so much of it relates to each other. Like I think a lot of it had been great preparation, because as a band, you're out there, you're selling your product, you're selling who you are, you're selling what you believe in. And as a drummer, I would be the more supportive. I'm in the back, I'm playing, I'm keeping it going, keeping the beat driving. And so I don't have to be up front as exposed in a way, but you're still playing for a lot of people. And in this situation, the first time I had to go and introduce this brand at an event, I realized at that moment, I'm listening to, it happened to be a rabbi, right? He's talking about it, and he's in front of about close to 80 people. And I'm thinking to myself, man, he is a great public speaker. I mean, he does this every day. Everything he does, it's in front of a ton of people, and that's his norm. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I have to get up there, and now I have to talk and I have to do it all. And that's not my norm. So, but at the end of the day, it is just like playing the drums. Once you get up there, start going, you get the flow and you're comfortable. And I had to carry it all myself, and I'm not, behind the scenes in a way. And it was great. And what was unbelievable, I was very surprised, is that when that evening event finished and people were coming up and talking and sharing their comments and what they felt about this. And I was like, man, this is crazy. I left there as if I had just played a major performance. Like it could have felt like a stadium to me, because it's such a personal, special project for me, and have people react that way. It's the same thing when people talk about a song being their baby or anything they created. It's something that they really felt so tied to. And then to get somebody and their reaction being so positive, I left like I had just played a huge gig, and it was an unbelievable feeling. So then it was great. I thought it was, it really, I don't know, it tied to both. Like it's kind of like the next chapter of what you were doing. And like I said, I had to be more comfortable being out in front, but it's really, I don't feel it. There's no problem. I have no issue telling you the story about this and telling you how it happened. And I think all of these things have led to that. The creation of the brand, how it came about, just like how sometimes in songwriting, you freeform a lyric just kind of comes out spontaneously. This idea was completely a flash of inspiration, and everything that you see how it is and what it became is exactly what I thought of in that moment. As a drummer, you need to know so much of different feels and grooves and styles, and everybody specializes in certain things. So you have to go dig into, why is that rock drummer so good? Why is that jazz drummer so good? How can they do it all? How do you get that feel? And you go deep in those layers. And when I found out about this, I'm like, wow, why is tequila so good? Why is this made better? Why is that made better? What are those places that it comes from? Those, distillers and the unique qualities. And I started digging into all of it, and it was became obsessed like I did with music. And then it was fun. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And so it all came from that single idea, but I actually just kept picking at it. Like I wouldn't stop. And it's hard to explain, but literally that I call it a divine download. I felt like Kevin Costner, and all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I need to build this. Like, this is unbelievable. And the first thing was this: everybody has great ideas, and you think, that's a great idea. I need to go check it and see if it's actually something no one's done before, because it's too much of a great idea that somebody probably already did it. And when I did look, and I was checking online, and I'm just waiting for it to hit on something, but it was tumbleweeds. I'm like, man, that's impossible. This is impossible. I'm like, it's got to be here. And I go, it's not. And so I took action.
Launching a spirits brand isn't easy. So how did the idea for your tequila brand come to life?
Okay, so the idea stems from a few things. I think it was a couple seeds planted that had been there. I've always liked, of spirits in general, I've always been drawn to tequila. My family is from Mexico. It's the Mexican spirit. My mom was born and raised in Mexico City, so I grew up with the heritage and the culture. It was just always second nature for me. And I speak a little Spanish and I understand a little Spanish, but I didn't benefit as much as my older sister. She's fluent perfectly. So when I was born, people were always speaking English. When I'm there, it's like normal. I feel really at home. And there's a huge Jewish community in Mexico, and not everybody also realizes that. And my mom and the family is all part of that. And when we started going to the local synagogue here, which is a Chabad, the rabbis always want to celebrate together. We're going to have a L'chaim. I go, great. I'm not used to that, but let's do it. And then it's like, oh, let's have a L'chaim to, so-and-so's new job or so-and-so's new venture, or that things are going to be good here and good here. You're always trying to highlight a good, positive thing. And that's the point of a L'chaim. There are so many negative things that you get, immersed with every day. There's so many things that come at you, but you have to find one good thing, just like the idea of finding just be thinking positive. And this is what you do. You think positive and you say L'chaim. And I go, I love that. Well, I won't use tequila. I don't know anything about tequila. He has no clue. He drinks what they bring as long as it's kosher. So I went on a mission. I'm like, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to get him a kosher bottle of tequila. And I went look for one. And the guys are like, I don't really know if that's a good kosher one. There's not like a good kosher tequila. I go, really? Yeah, there's not. They go, well, this one could be okay. Let me try. I brought it. It didn't taste good. And I was like, but all right, it's something. And cut to a couple weeks after, in Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, you go, you celebrate, you call in the New Year. And when you're in the service, you say, the first thing you say is Tekiah. It's the first sound of the shofar, and it's the loudest blast of the shofar to get your attention. It's call to action to usher in the new year. It's a really strong, positive thing. And so when they said Tekiah and they sound the shofar, which I have, this is, a shofar. I can't play it because I'm not I don't do that, but they say tequila, and they go, woo, and they massive blow on this thing. Okay. And I'm sitting there and he says tequila, and I go, tequila. That's awesome. I go, tequila, because my mind's always trying to make these weird connections. And so I literally, that's where that flash inspiration hit me. And it was everything all at once. And I say it's a divine download because it was just like, boom. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. And then I just had to think about that the whole time. And I just started piecing it together in my head and like how it looked and everything about it. And I have no clue about how really tequila works. I knew a little bit, but I started digging and going down that rabbit hole. And it led to learning a ton and realizing there's probably something here that nobody's ever thought of, the kosher market. And the fact that nobody even realizes there's a Jewish community in Mexico. And this was an opportunity to create something that would honor my mom and, the memory of my mom, our family, the community, and even more so like what's going on in the world today. Doing something positive, again, a l'chaim, to think positively and be united as a community. And I thought this could be really cool. I looked around, nobody done it, and I put it together. Of course, I trademarked everything, and before I even knew what I was going to do. And then I started figuring out how I was going to make it, where I was going to make it, what is a good tequila, what is like the benchmark of a good tequila. And I tried a ton. But then I got to a point where I just had to go to Mexico myself and go right to the distillery, talk to all these guys at the really good, high quality craft distilleries that make the additive free, authentic tequila, not the garbage commercial tequila. No, this is like good quality tequila, and figure out if I could work with them or what we could do together, and then make sure that I could get it OU certified kosher, because being that it's called Tekiah Kosher Spirits, the OU certification is Orthodox Union, and it's the biggest, most recognized kosher certification in the world. I wanted to know that it could pass that criteria to carry the certification. And then I just kept plugging away. And it took about a year. September 23, October 23 was all my trademark filings. And then December of 23, I was in Mexico to do my initial meetings and developed it all the way through. And then bottling in October. And then it landed October 24, and it landed in December 20th in Michigan with the distributor. And it's hard to explain, but everything as it went through the process, I just had to figure out what door it was and just walk through it. Then just recently, I decided to submit it for the Agavos Awards, which is something Tequila Matchmaker put together. And they're like the authority in tequila. They database every tequila and brand that you could think of. They have it all in their app and website. So they track everything that is to do with tequila. And they said, we're going to make our own Agave Spirits Award because it's too special to just do a spirits award in general. You have to have agave aficionados that are going to try your brand and let us know what they think. So I thought that's what I need to do. I want to make sure that this tequila gets out in front of people who really know what good tequila is. And I just submitted it thinking this would be a good opportunity just to get some kind of recognition.
Like what are the two versions you have for someone that doesn't know much about tequila?
Yeah, I started off with the two most popular, I guess, or the two most common. When you make tequila, you harvest your agave. Agave takes anywhere from 5 to 8 years to grow and mature. So it's a long process. So when you plant a field of agave, you're not going to get anything from that field for a while. And it really dictates also the flavor. There's so much there that goes into that final product, in the fields, the weather, what the agave goes through, and the location. So the family that owns the distillery owns their own agave fields. It's a state agave in Michoacan. They have that agave and you harvest it, you cut it, you bring it in, and then you roast it, you cook it, steam it, and you macerate, roller mill, crush it. You get the juices, it goes into fermentation, and that ferments, I'd say like a week roughly, and then it goes into distillation. And you distill it twice. So you do the first run and then the second run. And after that second run, it'll rest. And most likely it's going to be a little bit too, like the ABV is going to be higher. So you bring it down to that 40% with water. So really all tequila is in this bottle is the great agave, the yeast and the fermentation, and then the water. And that's it. And that's what you get after it's done. This great pure agave blanco, which is just pure tequila. And people that in Mexico prefer a blanco tequila, when you're drinking that, because you know how well it's made. It's a simple ingredient of the 3 ingredients, and you can taste the flavors, and you can really understand how authentic it is and how good it is, because there's nothing else that's standing in front of that flavor. Once you take it, the tequila that you've made, and put it to a barrel, you're going to age it. And this glass is a little bit thicker, so it's a little lighter than that. But this is a 4-month aged reposado. So it's been in a barrel, American whiskey barrel, for 4 months. And it picks up all of that barrel flavor influence property of the barrels, that you're going to get some of the caramel, vanilla, oak, smokiness, and still a lot of the agave. And so it changes that. And you can now see how more complex it became. But this is still the best way to know how well it was made. Because if there's anything funny with it, if it's overly sweet or it's too heavy in the alcohol, right, right for that first sip, what had been done. And then that's a great foundation for everything else you do. And then I'll do a añejo, which is aged longer. And that one's going to be somewhere in that 14, 16 month range. That's going to come out probably the end of the year.
And what is the average price point? Again, for those that don't know much about tequila, sometimes people are price sensitive to wines, whiskeys, and for tequilas I heard one wine person say, $10 to $15 is like the biggest market for a bottle of wine. We know there's $100 bottles, but $10 to $15 is the most common price point to pick up, a good bottle of wine for dinner at home. But what's a good price point for tequila? Obviously, yours is a unique twist with a great story to it. What is a price point for the 2 you have and the third one that might be coming?
It's a premium product, no doubt. It's a great tequila, and now verified by those aficionados, it is a great tequila. But I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I'm going to charge those luxury price tequilas. It's like people are charging for a bottle $80, $90, $100, $200 a bottle. Are you kidding? I'm not going to go buy those bottles. And it doesn't matter how good it is. That's a lot. The tequilas that I knew that were the real deal tequilas are all about simple bottles, but great liquid. And those are the ones you find in the price point of anywhere from $50 to $60. So you can get some good decent budget tequila, and that's going to be like $35. The Blanco, affordable, because the Blancos take the least time. It's just you go, you make your run, you bottle it, you've got your Blanco. It's the time that goes into the aging of your Reposado and Añejo, and it's your holding cost, and you got to make that back. So those are more expensive. But for me, the price point, the mid premium is like $50. So the Blanco is at $54, and then the Reposado is $64. And then you think about it, you buy a bottle of tequila, you get a lot more pours out of it than you do a bottle of wine. So each one, you're going to get more. It takes you longer to finish it. So that price point is, if you kind of put it in relations, it's about the same. It's not that bad. But it is definitely right there at a good sweet spot. The Añejo, it takes longer to make, and it's just more expensive in general. So that's more in like the almost $80 range. I'm trying to keep it in that point where it's the sweet spot. It's a very attainable, good tequila. I want people to be able to buy it and enjoy and celebrate together. I'm not trying to charge crazy, exorbitant prices. And I'm also trying to do things where I could partner up with organizations and sell bottles with them, and I can give them money back too. So there's a lot of things I want to be doing with the brand that helps the community and gives back.
We mentioned at the beginning of the episode that music somewhat brought us together besides our mutual connections. And you played in a band, you toured, we both released CDs and of music. We've learned a number of skill sets in doing that, from product launch, whether it's a tequila brand or an album, to performing shows, maybe doing studio work with someone. You learn all these skills performing in a band that really are transferable in so many areas of life. It's like the equivalent of hearing someone or watching someone sing your song, your original song, and that feeling you have. So my question is what's something you learned during the product development or launch phase of your tequila brand that surprised you?
I mean, with everything, this time I was doing it all by myself. One of the greatest things, though, I did get some help. Every day you wake up, like I said, every day, like, what am I doing today? What am I going to do today? What little thing am I doing more to make this thing even get beyond where I want it to be? because I do have high goals for what this could become. I guess the biggest surprise is how excited I've been about it, how much I love the process and everything. Even when there's a difficult day, you're going to overcome that. It's no problem. It's not a big deal. And also at the same time, I really, like I said, I had the clear vision of what I wanted to do from the beginning, but I wasn't going to, you find this in the studio. There are a lot of guys that talk about it. You can overanalyze something so much. At the end of the day, the first cut or the first version that you thought was like garbage or had mistakes on it, that was the best one.
It
Like
has the
drum
magic.
take. Yeah, that was the magic. If that's the drum take that had the coolest groove, the best fill. You were in the moment, not even thinking. And once you start thinking, forget it. You just ruined it. And I'm like, okay, I can't think too much. I know that this is what I was thinking. This is what I wanted. This is what I was feeling. And this is going to be great. And I'm going to get this and I'm getting it out. Like I need to get it out. I can't wait on this. When I was in Mexico and I was telling the people there my timeline, I said, I've already started all this process because a lot of these brands go down there to find a distillery and then they've got to figure out what it's going to be. Where am I going to sell it? Who am I going to sell it to? What's it going to be called? And they do like focus groups and they try to get everybody like you analyze, well, what's like get you overanalyze it from a marketing standpoint. Like who's my demographic, the market? No. I already knew exactly what it was going to be. And then when I came down, I said that to people like, wow, you already have that together. Yeah, I'm all done. Okay. I want this done in a year. Like, man, you're pretty ambitious. It's going to take 2.5 years. That's not going to happen. I want to do it in a year. You understand. I have to do this. The fact that my mom was such a big part of my life and my dad, they always pushed and fired. And my mom was more entrepreneurial. And so I saw that in my parents' relationship. My mom wanted to do things that were out of my dad's comfort zone and very entrepreneurial. And that's the thing. If it's uncomfortable, that means you're onto something. You got to push through the discomfort and do it. And he was like, no, I know what I do. I'm not going to try to get out of that. And so they never went to that other, like they never explored things together. My mom was, though, she was willing to do that. And she tried doing multiple businesses and things. And she did do things. And she was also a real estate agent, realtor. But, at the end of the day, my mom was from Mexico City and her language and the culture and things like that, it was a little bit tougher for her. She had a harder time relating to people here in the States sometimes. And so I feel like this was my mission to accomplish things that my mom would have loved to seen done and doing it in a way that can impact who we are, our community and everybody and our family. And that motivated me like crazy. So I'm like, I'm going to get this done in a year. I'm going to have it finished and I'm not going to let myself stand in my way. I'm going to get a great product. I'll tweak it. Maybe I'll do things. I'll develop it more, but I think it's going to be great. It's going to go. And so all of that I think that was so surprising that I just kind of fell in love with the process. And then the same thing that I didn't realize until later is when years being in a band that, like I said, that magic is in that first take and how good it sounds and not over analyzing. But when you're recording a record and you're writing a song, there's sometimes it comes out of nowhere, or that groove or that anything like it's kind of special and you capture it and you try to remember what it was. And then you develop it and you record your record, your album, and you're doing this in kind of like secret. Like you don't share it with too many people. You let people hear your demos as you go, but not until you really release it and start getting that first song out or whatever. And that's what this felt like. I really was very careful with who I let know about what I was doing. And I eventually had to tell some family, because when they started coming over the house, they were seeing a tequila collection go from 2 tequila bottles to like 30 and now 50 and like more. And they thought I had a problem. I said, not really. I mean, I'm just doing research. It's all research. It felt so good to finally share what I had been doing and get the reaction, which that part was so cool. Like I said, like you were playing a huge stadium gig or something. The music side, obviously, the marketing side as a band, like you said, you get the album out. Now you've got to go sell it. And so that's playing gigs. That's showcases or whatever it is. We used to do acoustic gigs all over when Borders existed. We did a whole Borders tour. We did tours and all throughout Texas and like Walmarts, and we would go play. We would do radio station morning tours. We would do everything we could get the word out. And that's like what this has become now. it's telling the story and letting everybody know what it was and what it means and how good it is, and marketing it and sharing the product with everybody and growing it. What I found, and the reason I started this strategy the way I did, is all from showcasing when we were a band in LA. When we would go to these showcases, the A&R reps or any of the lawyers and agents would come, and they'd always basically, they'd tell you, but they wouldn't tell you. But they kind of tell you later. That was a great show, great gig. Oh, nice. If they showed up, by the way. Like, we got 10 guys who showed up tonight. All these labels are showing up. Back when you still needed like bigger labels. And, oh yeah, like maybe 2 people or 1 people, whatever, 1 person.
So relatable.
They would say, yeah, they would like, oh, didn't make it, sorry. And you like put all this time into playing this kick-ass show, and it was, and then nobody shows up. But what they were looking for, the guy who signed Linkin Park told us this, and back in the day, it's like when I saw those guys, I walked in and it was a no-brainer. They had the entire venue going nuts. They were all wearing their t-shirts. They were all singing the songs and screaming. And they were at every gig, kind of like the way like the Seattle rock scene was back in the day. Like those bands had such followings. People who already knew who Soundgarden were, Pearl Jam, and like Alice in Chains and all those bands. Everybody knew that it was a huge scene. And that scene just then exploded all over the country. I was like, man, that's it. For instance, Nirvana, the biggest one. So I was like, well, why can't I just do that in Michigan, get this brand out in Michigan, in my community, in my backyard, and have everybody wearing the t-shirts and knowing all about it and having a great time. And then those other markets will start hearing about it. And then I'll get it to those other markets. I'll move it to Southern Florida, Miami. I'll move it to New York, New Jersey, California, Ohio, like places that are already like wanting to get it. And I'll build it just like we did in the band, organically and just kind of homegrown. And that was the strategy, because for me, I'm doing it by myself. I don't have that capital or, the ability that some of these big monster partnership companies, like they're going in and they're throwing a ton to get it into like major markets all at once. I mean, I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to be Casamigos. I'm trying to be like, I joke, but the Manischewitz of tequila. And that's like it's a big niche. It's a niche for sure. But it's one that like, I know I got to get to that, and then it'll go after that to all the other places. And these awards only help that, because now people who really are tequila aficionados, the tequila, and then the people who've never tried it, but they're drinking it at Shabbat or our bat mitzvahs and weddings, they're going to say, this tastes so good. They just like it. So that's the goal. And it all came from how we approached getting ourselves out in the music industry as well. I mean, that's all we did. Just like in that video you saw, I mean, it was a no-brainer to me to create that logo for the drum set. And I did that, and I made that t-shirt because, of course, one of my favorite rock t-shirts is a Chili Peppers logo. So I'm like, I want to make that cool logo. It's going to go on the kit. It's going to go everywhere. And that was what it was. I think I have a picture of it here. I use it a lot. It's this logo.
Yeah, that's great.
And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to take that's going on my drum set. Like, I don't care. Not that I was all into the glam metal, but the drummer Blas Elias for Slaughter.
Oh, yeah.
He would have his drum set, and he would have like the double kick and then a double gong kick up here. And I think it said something like this space for rent or something on his kick drum head, or, it's funny. Like, yeah, it's a billboard.
No, I'm still a fan. He was in the Blue Man Group for a long time in Vegas, and I think he's touring with Stephen Pearcy's version of Brat. He's an awesome drummer.
Yeah, and he's still doing it, and he's a really good. He was a good drummer. He was stuff, and I think it's just so funny because it's a natural billboard. Drummers are, I guess, we're always advertising.
And so, looking at the success of the tequila brand launch, what does it look like over the next few years? I know you mentioned going into different markets. It seems like having the crock pot method versus the microwave method, or even DoorDash method. Everyone wants it instantly. But building it slow and steady seems to be your approach. But what does that look like over the next few years?
I'm getting ready to do the next bottling, and the next bottling will probably maybe in 6 weeks or something. What I'm doing is I'm trying to do like strategic events. I do have distribution in Florida, and I want to get as much as I can out of Michigan still. Like, I need to do a lot more in Michigan. And that's just like me pounding the pavement. But in Florida, there are great contacts and connections, and I can start going into the Miami market, start getting out throughout this, that Southern Florida region, and then doing more events. One of the surprises in the production side of things is that I was pushing the people in Mexico so hard because I knew what I wanted to do right away. So when they said take 2.5 years, I said, no, it's going to take a year. It probably could have taken less time because I knew what I wanted and I already had it done. It was a matter of the label approvals that you have to go through in the States. They were pretty quick. But in Mexico, when you submit it to the lawyers there and the CRT, the process took a little longer. And then the contracts you have to have with the distillery took a little longer for them to approve. And then the importing process took a little longer because I had to make sure it was done 100%, because if you start bringing your stuff up and you don't have the right paperwork, they'll pull you across the border and throw it in a warehouse and fine you every day. Oh. I was like, that's scary. I can't afford that. I'm doing everything on I'm trying to keep it lean and mean. So I can't afford to do all this crazy stuff. But the goal is I'll have more product available. I have an online store. So if you go to tequilaspirits.com and you can go directly to buy.tequilaspirits.com, but there's an online store that I ship from. I also have a product on Sip Tequila, which is a marketplace. Great tequila. They have the best tequilas out there. So you can buy from them. But the online store allows me to do different partnerships I can do with people or organizations or things like that, which I wanted to do. And it lets me ship everywhere but 4 states. I think there's some tricky ones like maybe Utah or Hawaii, Alaska, Massachusetts. It's weird. But I can ship all over the country. So the idea is I can grow awareness through social media, through things like this, and get people that want to purchase it. They can buy it online, and then grow it more on premise, here in Michigan and markets like Miami. And so by next year, I'd like to have it in some of those places already kind of getting reorders, trying to get in there also like Total Wine in Southern Florida right now, because I'm in Total Wine in Michigan. So I know I can just turn that on and get the products there and start telling people about it, and they can go purchase it there. And that's going to be the goal. And so I would love to get to a point where it's like maybe four markets, 4 states that I'm seeing consistent sales in. And I made a deal with our boys that if I sell 10,000 when I sell 10,000 cases, that we can get a pool.
Nice.
This will be a good goal. 10,000 cases. Now put that in perspective. Patron sells 3 million cases a year. And my first production run was 833 cases. So 10,000 cases. I've been going okay, I want to sell 10 cases a week. I'd like to get to 20 cases a week, like maybe 30 cases a week. And I want to keep building it and watching that grow consistently. And so that's what I want to do in the next, few years. Now the other market that's kind of a cool bonus, when I started this whole project, I knew that I was going to have to go to Mexico. So my family lives all in Mexico, but a lot of my family they're my age. They have kids. They're working. They all have like a regular day gig, job. And so they have their commitments are harder. They were like taking vacations. So when I wanted to go, they weren't available. And my one cousin, Adam, who, by the way, is the 2011 Israeli Idol winner. He's a musician. He's a singer. He's great. He's produced all these albums and records, and he got a scholarship to study music in Israel when he won this thing. He won by singing Hallelujah. Now that is the Leonard Cohen, but obviously I love the Jeff Buckley version. Everybody loves that. And he grew up with all that kind of music. He loves everything. And so he's a great musician, and we always talk about music and what we're doing. And October 7th happened, and it was too risky. It was getting crazy. And he said, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to come back to Mexico and wait it out. And he had just gotten back. And I said, hey, you're in Mexico. Why don't you come with me? Because I need your help. Do you like tequila? He said, I love tequila. All right. You want to meet me in Guadalajara? Yeah. And we went to all the distilleries and checked them all out that I had lined up. And we had an amazing time. And so he's a great palate. And in Mexico, people are very food oriented. It's a big foodie city. And he studied culinary arts as a passion he liked as well. And so he's like, dude, I love it. And we tried all these tequilas, and he was an awesome person to be there with, because we were like, what do you think? What do you think? And we tell each other how we thought of the profiles and what we were picking up. And we both thought, when we went to this distillery, wow, this is going to be cool. This could be great. This is awesome. And he's been down there. So the idea was to always have it in Michigan. I never thought about anything else. But when he took a few sample cases with him after we did our bottling, all the family, my family there in Mexico, and all the family, they were trying it and they were going, I want it. Where can I buy it? I'm like, well, we don't have it for sale here yet. It's not done. So now I've just translated everything in Spanish, and the Spanish, Mexican standards, I had to have it adjusted so they could approve it. It's been approved. So on the next bottling, we're going to do a good little portion that will have all Spanish labels. And the beauty of Mexico is that he can be a distributor. Here in the States, the laws are pretty rigid. I can't go into a store and say, you want to buy it? I have to go through the channels. He can go into a store and say, well, you want to buy this? And they'll be like, great, I'll buy 2 cases. And he can go to a restaurant, a liquor store, party planners. He can sell whoever he wants. And so we are going to take a sample of that. He's going to go and start getting it in Mexico City. So that's the next expansion. And so we're going to kind of test the market there, because nobody has something like this in Mexico City. And the other thing about Mexico City is it's monopolized by the big brands that are the main brands, the Cuervos, the Maestro Dobel, Herradura, like all the typical brands you find that you see like at the airport. That's what you find available in Mexico City. All of the really amazing craft brands that are authentic as well. They're just great, well made. They typically ship right up to the States. You'll find more of those in California, Florida, Texas than you do in Mexico City. So it doesn't get allocated to them as much. And so that's why I know that this could be so great. And he had it at one of our cousins' weddings this last, maybe a couple months ago. And they freaked out. They were like, they all loved it. And I'm like, that's what it's designed for. So we want to make sure we get it out to the people there. And then we'll see. Like, I definitely want to get it to more places. We've had interest in Buenos Aires. We've had interest in Israel. And we've had interest, obviously, in other states. But I'm trying to go slow and steady because I don't want to make any mistakes. If you aim small, you miss small. But if you start going really big, it could be a big disaster.
There's an old saying, slow and steady wins the race.
That's exactly it.
Well, I think we're only 20 minutes from each other, and I look forward to meeting up at a tasting in the coming months and connecting and obviously trying the different tequilas you have. But on the entrepreneurial journey, is there any advice you have for someone considering a career change or launching a passion project? Because a lot of people have these ideas, but for whatever reason, they can't launch. Maybe they think someone else already has that product or idea out there, but you did your homework and realized this doesn't exist. And then, or did they feel that maybe it's not the right time, in life, where the season of life they're in? What is your advice? You've taken the leap. Your wife has taken the leap in the industry she works.
I think with this, it's kind of being smart with it. This came at a crossroads. So when we moved into this house, my wife, like I said, we redesigned everything. It was an awesome project. And one thing that we didn't really do, we gave the boys in a huge playroom, but I had no room for my music, my drums. And I'm like, and it has a crawl space, so I don't have a basement. I'm like, well, maybe I should have thought of this better. And what I was going to do at that moment was I'd been putting up plans and drawings together to then get proposed to the city to get a foundation put in to attach to the back to create a really cool music studio space and have all of that so I could have all my stuff together and play. And when this idea came about, I realized, well, if I do a studio, it's a lot of money first. And do I want to spend a lot of money? And my kids will maybe give me 5 minutes of peace to even play once in a while. So that's a lot to invest. And when this idea came, I'm like, well, I could do this in a really smart, calculated way. And this investment has some kind of return and a great upside potential. So yes, it drives me crazy to think about like, you're going to spend on this, but you're really putting something into something that, I felt so confident in. And I guess I looked at, and I did the research. I talked to a lot of people and asked the right people some questions about it, but figured out if it made sense. And then I just tried to make it as calculated as possible and not overanalyze, like I said, but also just realize that take action. One of the reasons I didn't want to tell anybody about it is because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to get done. I knew I had a lot to figure out. I didn't want people to get in my way and start telling me things and straying me off my course or telling me how risky and impossible it was. Because I asked a few people at first, just general questions. And right away I said, are you kidding me? Tequila, it's oversaturated. Too many people, too many market. The agave prices are too high. It's way too expensive. You'll never be able to get out there. It's too competitive. I'm like, wow, you just made me feel like I shouldn't even attempt it. but they didn't even know what I was trying to do. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna ask anybody. I'm gonna go figure it out. And it was like keeping it close to your chest so that you don't get thrown off course, and then be careful who you share it with, and just keep chipping away every day, because that's important. And that was one of the biggest things I found. Like, I had to go figure it out and get it done. But as far as everything else goes, I did do like typical market research. I mean, the kosher market is a really big market. People do want to, when you're eating clean, you want something that's verified pure and clean and quality made. And so if you look at a lot of food items that you consume, it's like a ton of them, almost all of them, you're going to see the OU on the back label, the front label, whatever. So it was looking at the market, looking at what currently is out there, and realizing that it would have a niche and a designated loyal following, I felt. So my thing is, figure it out. Don't just talk to people about it. Because like I said, I was keeping it quiet for the reason that even just talking to people about it and telling them, you run the risk of them throwing their opinion at you. I tried to be smart with the numbers, look at the costs, look at the production, what was realistic. It basically was what it would cost to build my drum room. So it's like, if I'm going to spend money to do that, this makes more sense. And then you get advice from some good people. I did talk to one guy who, he was like, this is amazing. This idea is unbelievable. You know what? We could start looking at distilleries. We could start doing this. We'll go get it in Asia. We'll go to here. I'm like, wait a second, dude. I'm only talking about, you're looking at a production run of like, 50,000 bottles. I'm going to do 5,000 bottles. I think we're at a different point. When I get there, maybe we'll talk. And I didn't want to get investors in, by the way. I wanted to do it all by myself, because eventually you might need to bring in investment capital, but I didn't want to go there because I just knew that it can complicate things, and I wanted to get things moving, like slow and steady, and really build it before that was a concern or an issue. And that's it. Like, just slow and steady every day, chipping away and believing in it. Like, that's the biggest thing.
It really is a great story. And as we start wrapping things up, I want to jump into the encore section where we focus on some fun, personal, and pop culture questions. So Greg, if you were to share your Spotify or Apple Music playlist, what are some artists we would find, especially being a musician?
Artists to find right now?
Yeah, if you showed me if we were sitting next to each other and said, hey, look at my playlist, what bands or artists am I going to find on there?
Man, it goes all over the place. So it was funny. Like, I'm a sucker for, I like 80s music. I like 90s music. I like even current stuff. All right. So honestly, if you listen to my playlist, it would be One Republic. It would be, so this is what it happens. I end up DJing for my boys in the car. So I'm playing them all the music they like. And lately, what's been great is all the movies they've been watching have 80s music kind of recycled. Onions had Tears for Fears and Everybody Wants to Rule the World and all these other songs. So if you were to play my phone on like Amazon Prime, it would pop up all the stuff that my kids listen to, and they love One Republic and stuff like that, which I think is great. In pop rock, but I really gravitate to a lot of the 80s rock, 90s rock, 70s stuff. I was listening to the dad rock station, and dad rock is pretty cool. It throws in some of the 90s stuff and then a lot of the 80s stuff, and then even older, like, Tom Petty and all that classics, and even Kenny Loggins and yacht rock, and all that stuff is great. So I've always been more into that. As far as like drums and music, I love Rush. But sometimes I really just want to hear a song kind of like Tom Petty or Billy Squier, or like, I don't know, Bob Seger. Those kind of guys are, rock guys. And that dad rock, it definitely has a great playlist for that. So I've been enjoying it. I'm definitely a sucker for some really good rock and roll, and like even the classics also, the Beatles and Rolling Stones and all that good stuff.
So what was the last show or concert or event you attended, even play? Like, what was the last thing you attended?
Probably the one show that's coming to mind. I have like a bunch of friends, and it is harder to get out these days with little guys, although I try to take them to shows as well. I want to take them to the Beatles show, but they decided not to, but we'll take them to other things, and I'm going to take them to more concerts as they get older, but they love music. And my friends, Barney, guitar player, and my friend Mark, Dorian, keyboard player, we had the opportunity. We were like, hey, let's get tickets to go see Sammy Hagar at the State Theater. He's there for two reasons. He's with his band, The Circle, with Jason Bonham on drums, and it's all this stuff. It's a great band. Michael Anthony and the guitar player, I always forget his name. but Satriani has been playing with him lately, but the other guy's name, I forgot.
Vic?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's go, because he's also unveiling his new Red Rocker lager made in Detroit, and it's a big party. And Sammy is a huge inspiration for the fact that like he did things. That's a business sense. You said, what do you do about what do you think about lessons for business? Listen to Sammy Hagar or read his Red Rocker autobiography. Oh my God, the guy went from one business to one business, and then not even really intending. He's like, hey, I'll try that, and it went nuts. He blew it up. He did the wiring apartments for sprinkler systems. That became a big business. He said, I like these mountain bikes. I'm going to make my own. And then he made mountain bikes, and he was the first one to do that in California. And then of course he got into the venue business, Cabo and Cabo Wabo Cantina and Cabo Wabo Tequila. And I mean, everything else after. So Red Rocker is one of the ones he started doing. And we went to the show, and he brought out the Red Rocker lager, and they played an amazing gig. So you watch him, it's unbelievable. I think that's a great guy to study for entrepreneurial lessons. And so that was an awesome show. And then afterwards we went to the Jason Bonham was back in town, so that wasn't the last one. Jason Bonham came in for the Led Zeppelin experience, and he had all these other guys, and he was playing the songs of his dad and Led Zeppelin, and they were amazing. It was unbelievable. But the thing about Sammy's show, which was so cool, is he plays his Sammy hits. He plays Van Halen hits. He plays some Zeppelin stuff, and he mixes it all up. And I was like, man, it's such a cool show. That was great. And of course, there's been some other things, I think, here and there.
What is the favorite venue you've ever played at when you were playing gigs?
There have been a few that were pretty memorable, but there were some good ones in Austin. We would play Antone's, really great classic club. We played the Continental Club. Those were great. And then in LA, we played the Viper Room one time. I mean, that was a couple times actually. And that was great. I think those were a lot of fun. I remember one time I had the Killer Flamingos were playing, and they had a gig at this event at the Royal Oak Music Theater. And Tim Weber was doing his thing, and they let me sit in. And that was pretty awesome. Tim would get it. Tim would sing, "It's Getting Hot in Here." And because of that, he's a drummer. He's up front. And Michelle would play the kit or just play time on the hi-hat. And they go, "Dude, come up." And Royal Oak Music Theater, and get up, just rocked it out. And that was fun. It was just because it was just so fun and kind of like impromptu. And we had a good time. We just jammed. And Tim was always so great. So that was a nice time. But with other bands, like the Magic Bag, we would play there quite a bit. Spirit of 76 or Boogie Dynamite and things. That Magic Bag is a great venue. There's been a whole bunch. I think it's been really cool. One of the coolest shows we had by the corporate band I was playing in, we did the Best of Detroit party, and it was at the Opera House, and we didn't know what to expect, and it was an awesome show. That was great. That's a nice venue too.
All right, so I'm going to end with one last question. What's your favorite tequila cocktail?
Yeah, you know what? I'll make it for you right now.
Nice.
We take this amazing Tekiah kosher reposado, and we simply add it to the glass, and then enjoy. So seriously, that's about it. Boom.
No mixers, no ice.
No, you get it has an amazing body, just great. The aroma, the nose, it's unbelievable. And so by itself, it tastes great. I love the Blanco too. Like I said, when you drink tequila, if you want to drink a tequila, everybody's like, give me the Reposado and Añejo. But when you try a Blanco, you can tell how good it's made. So, it's starting off with a great foundation. But the Reposado is really special. And if you can see, it's got all the legs on it. You can see the oils from the agave. So this is it right here is perfect. But if you were to make a cocktail, currently Sylvan Table has the drinks, Lely's and Farmington, Zerbo's, Shift in Birmingham, Rochester, Chop House has it. They're all going to make great cocktails. They'll make an amazing margarita, but I made one up where you could do a tequila mule. So a Moscow mule with vodka, a Mexican mule with tequila, now a tequila mule with tequila. And I take the Reposado, about 2 ounces. Then you give a half ounce of freshly squeezed lime. So that makes a big difference when it's fresh. And then you top it off with Werner's, which is awesome because typically mules are made with ginger beer, but you take the Werner's and that ginger ale and the caramel and the vanilla that comes through with all of it, and it tastes awesome on the ice. Great. If you didn't do that, I also think just a ranch water with a Blanco is so good. If you just want to hang out and drink a really clean cocktail, ranch water, because all you do is 2 ounces of tequila, half ounce again squeezed fresh lime, and then like sparkling mineral water, and it tastes so good. The other thing that's so amazing about tequila is the agave naturally is lower in sugar, lower glycemic. It's gluten-free, it's anti-inflammatory, it doesn't have the sugars to give you those hangovers. So it's a very good, healthy option if you're drinking, because drinking is still alcohol. But those are the drinks I really think are great and highlight how good it is. And like I said, just on its own, it tastes awesome. And a ranch water is great. Margarita is amazing. Comes out super balanced, and it makes a difference. If you were to make a margarita with some horrible mixer, you're going to kill it though. So don't do that. It's very easy to make a good margarita without those packaged mix options.
Greg, this has been great. And I'm looking forward to, again, connecting, meeting in person sometime soon at a tasting or just meeting for lunch or something and just seeing how the brand is doing. I'm going to be following you for obviously a very long time, and I look forward to seeing it in the stores. If you found value in this episode, please like and subscribe and keep rocking HR excellence.